And we are live. How are you doing today?
Good. Doing good.
Thank you for doing this podcast again.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that we had to redo it.
No
The audio
problem.
didn't quite record last time.
No problem.
How does everything sound?
Good.
Good?
Yep.
Okay. So what have you been up to since we last seen each other?
Basically the same old stuff. Work, helping out in my daughter's gymnastics program. I judge competitive cheer, so I've been doing some of that. Just the daily grind type stuff.
Your daughter's in competitive cheer. How old is she?
My daughter's in gymnastics.
Oh, gymnastics.
She's 6.
Oh, okay.
She goes twice a week to a place in Mason, and then I help help out coaching some of the recreational, like the young kids.
Okay. The last time she was here, she was showing my kids like somersaults. And, yeah.
She'll show anybody who wants to watch or doesn't want to watch. She'll still make you watch.
That's hilarious.
And then I judge middle school and high school competitive cheer.
Wow. So you're pretty busy.
Yeah, I'm very. And then I haven't done any recently, but I do liquor promotions.
You do what?
Liquor promotions.
Really?
To go to either liquor stores, restaurants, bars, and hand out samples of whatever the sample is that night. Different brands of liquor. Not typically beer.
Who do you do this for?
It's through a company called DBC. So the liquor reps hire DBC to hire us.
Oh, okay.
And so there's events all over the state. You just go around giving out samples.
Wow.
So that's one of the side jobs.
Wow. You have a couple, I know.
Yeah.
By the way, your car looks very nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
The last time you were here, you were going to go shop for a new car.
Yep.
Actually, you had it picked out.
I picked it up.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Thank you.
Do you like it?
I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
It's a Kia, right?
It's a Kia Telluride. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I waited a couple months for it with the shortages right now, but it was worth it. It's awesome. So
it was because of the chip shortage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had to order it, and actually it's not even the car I ordered. The car I ordered wasn't supposed to be in for another like 3 months or so. But this one had been ordered, and then no one had spoken for it, or the person changed their mind. I'm not really sure. But it was like pretty much exact same car I ordered.
Wow.
So I was like, yes, please. Like, I'll take it.
Is it fully loaded?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't pay for the higher trims with like all of the like extra stuff.
Yeah.
Because pretty much the basic trim had, I'm one up from the basic, everything that I wanted, and all the other stuff I was like, I'm not going to pay.
That's one thing that's kind of crazy now. Cause we bought a new truck like 2 years ago, I guess now. And it's pretty much basic, but it has like everything you would need, like heated seats and heated steering wheel. I'm like, that's all I need.
Exactly. When I went there, I was like, these are my thing, like the minimums that I want, features of the car and whatnot. And he was like, well, you could pay more for all of that plus all these extras, but you didn't list any of those extras in your, like, this is what I want. So why would you pay more for it when you're right? The basic ones now are like loaded.
Right.
It's like there's no more like base model anymore. Like
no,
the base ones
not.
are loaded.
Do you know what's kind of crazy too is you can order a vehicle without like power windows or anything. Like you could still order the crank. Like who would do that?
Oh my God. I guess you don't have to pay for them to go out.
No, it costs more. It costs more to
manuals?
special order. Yeah, to special order crank windows, it costs more.
Oh my gosh. That's odd. I did have a power window go out one time, and that sucked. It was like the one time I was like, I wish I had manual.
Did you have air conditioning at least?
I did, but it was in the winter.
Oh, okay.
And it went out, and it was like $400 to fix.
So you can't go through a drive-through?
No. Nope. So that was rough. But
no,
I love the car.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad that you were able to get a car. It's very difficult now. Working at GM, I understand everything going on with the auto industry.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Is your car made here in the United States?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know where?
I don't.
No. Okay.
I don't. That is one thing about Kia, because I typically stick with more American-made vehicles. Yeah. But Kia is technically foreign, I believe, but a lot of almost all of the jobs are here.
Okay. So their assembly.
So everything's,
Yeah. That's one thing people are like, well, I want to buy an American made car. That's why I'm going to stick with Ford, GM, Chrysler. And it's like, they are made here, but all the parts come from overseas. Like,
exactly.
Hence why we're having this chip shortage.
Exactly.
Like, they come over, overseas.
Exactly.
Or they'll be made in Mexico and then they ship them here.
Yeah. That mentality isn't exactly like, it's not possible anymore.
Yeah, it's not.
Everything is going to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can keep, for me, it's more like getting people the jobs and whatnot here.
Yeah.
But as far as you're never going to find a car that's 100% American. Jobs, parts, everything.
Yeah, it's impossible.
It's going to come from somewhere.
Because unless you are making the parts yourself, like the company, like if GM has like a plant where they make each part, they have to order them from other countries. So. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. What do you think about this whole supply problem?
It's a problem. I mean, it's a problem. I think it wasn't as known to us how much we actually do get in from other areas until recently, when the shelves are empty. You're ordering things and it's taking weeks.
Yeah.
And it's never
scary.
taken that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did I use Shipt typically, and my last few orders, it's not their fault. I mean, everything's out of stock.
Yeah.
I got a text for almost everything I ordered asking what I wanted to substitute, or this was out of stock, or that was out of stock.
Yeah.
And then what you are buying, you're paying so much more for than you used to.
Yeah.
So it's not good.
We do the car side pickup.
Yeah.
And same thing. They're like, this is out of stock. It's like, why do we even do a grocery list? Like, this is ridiculous.
You almost now have to go and just like look around, like, okay, what's here? Like, what can we make work with what the store has? And
like my kids drink lactate milk, and which is super expensive to begin with, but there's a shortage of it right now.
Really?
Yeah, you can't find it. It's kind of crazy. It's like, it's just,
like, how would this be?
It's milk. Like a year ago, we were dumping milk out because they couldn't get rid of it.
Right. No, I think it's a huge issue.
It's a huge problem. This episode is brought to you by Red Bike Delivery. This delivery service operates only using battery-powered, eco-friendly transportation. Red Bike Delivery is there for all your delivery needs, whether it's dinner for the family, flowers for your partner, or new houseplants for your new collection. Red Bike Delivery will gladly deliver those and everything in between. So what are you waiting for? Check out Red Bike Delivery on Facebook or Instagram for more information. Red Bike Delivery, because there's only one Earth. So let's get into your story a little bit.
Yeah.
You came here before and you shared a little bit about your fitness journey.
Yep.
You shared a little bit about what it's like being a wife of a fighter.
Not a fighter, definitely not a fighter.
I mean, maybe in some aspects you are.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about that. First, let's kind of get a little bit of who you are, where you're from. Are you from the Lansing area?
Yeah. I grew up in Mason my whole life, lived in one house, whole life. I was a cheerleader all the way through, pretty much, from middle school on. Did that competitively, and then once I graduated, I went to Michigan State, and then actually started coaching at Mason for the middle school cheerleading team. So I was doing that while in college. I went to Michigan State for a bachelor's in kinesiology, exercise science, and then continued to coach for about 5 years. After I graduated Michigan State, I worked at Sparrow for a little while. I worked in a nursing home for a little while. I think we talked about that last time, the one actually just down the road. And that really kind of set me off with what career path I wanted to go. I did the bachelor's in kin thinking I was going to do PTOT, but then I took some time off. And then during the course of just working different jobs while still planning to go back, I realized I liked the administrative side of healthcare and I was good at it. When I was at Sparrow, I was getting pulled to all different areas. I was actually there when they did their Epic, when they brought in Epic, which is when they went full EMR. They got rid of all paper charts, went full EMR. And I was getting pulled.
What was that like?
It was crazy. Actually smooth for being as big as Sparrow is, and all the outpatient and inpatient and all of that. But I was working with several different areas, like fixing all of the problems they had with Epic. And I was just a per diem employee. Like I did not even have full-time status, but I was working more than full-time and just helping out. And I realized I liked that side of it. And then when I got the job at the nursing home, that was all billing related and admissions and management and whatnot, and actually really enjoyed it. And then from there, I went on to get my master's in healthcare administration and management. There's a subspecialty in finance. And then I went on to work at the state. The first job I had was investigating Medicaid fraud, which is eye-opening.
In what ways?
To say the least, how much there is.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, there's, they estimate between 3 and 10% of all Medicaid claims are fraudulent.
Wow.
Which is a lot. And when you think about, that's coming out of both federal funds and taxpayer funds to pay for Medicaid, which I'm not disputing. But when you think that 10% of that is potentially going to fraudulent billing, it's a little bit eye-opening. And I did the billing side. There was another side of the house that did like beneficiary side where the food stamps and people saying they qualify for more than they do. I was on the provider billing side. So when you get doctors, therapists, all these people that are medical professionals and overbilling the Medicaid system, it's kind of nuts.
That is kind of crazy, and that's a huge problem with doctors and like dentists. Like they always want to try to suck as much as they can from insurance companies. And I've personally seen it like with my wife. She's gone to the dentist before, and they're like, well, since it's getting close to the end of the year, like we might as well use whatever you have on your insurance. And it's like, what? Why? Like, what if you need an emergency, like some sort of procedure?
Right.
Then you have nothing.
Yeah. It's in the like rings that we would find between doctors, pharmacists, specialty doctors, like all working together.
Wow.
In billing. And
that's crazy.
And it was a very interesting job. I mean, it was a lot of, you'd run the data, you'd go on site, interview, and not that everyone we interviewed was committing fraud by any means.
Right.
But typically we'd either get information from complaints from the public, or we'd run data and find outliers. So if there's one doctor billing a crazy amount more than other doctors in that specific code, that doesn't mean they were committing fraud, but it was, let's look at this, and try to, and some of them were and some of them weren't.
Would your job have anything to do with like doctors who would say like a patient needs a procedure, but they didn't really need that?
Yeah. So we had like some medical professionals, nurses and whatnot that would review that information. And if it was, offhand onesie twosies, then, that's not a huge deal. But when it's over and over and over again, and they're billing 3 times as much as the other doctors in that same specialty, that crazy code, you have to kind of wonder what's happening there.
Right.
And then there's also a difference. There's fraud, waste, and abuse, right? So fraud is intentional. Waste is it's not needed.
Right.
And then, so you have to kind of figure out which one it falls in that category too, where fraud, you can go through legal charges, where waste, it may come to the point where you can't bill Medicaid anymore or things like that.
Okay.
But you're not charged criminally.
And you enjoyed that.
So it was interesting. Yeah. I enjoyed the data side of it.
Okay.
I'm not as good.
I've never heard anybody say I enjoy data.
Oh, you haven't met me. My husband makes fun of me all the time because if there's anything that I can make a spreadsheet out of, I will. Anything. I'm like, let's make a spreadsheet out of this. He's like, we don't need a spreadsheet. I'm like, I need a spreadsheet. You don't have to look at it. Like I'm
that's hilarious.
A data enthusiast.
So does that make you pretty organized? Are you pretty organized generally?
No.
No.
You'd think that I would be. But no, I'm scatterbrained a lot of the time. But then with like numbers and data, and you get that in front of me, and I'll zero in and like focus on them. And now with my job at the state, I write queries on the data, and so it's like code essentially, SQL language, and where if you miss a comma in the whole code, it breaks the whole thing. Like it's very tedious. But I can be like zoned in on that and looking at it.
How did you learn that? How did you learn that?
From coworkers and whatnot, just on the job.
Wow.
going through it. And actually I never thought that I would like that. And I thrive off of it, where I cannot, if you give me, where like my husband likes case law and, you know, he wants to read through all of that, and I will glaze over in about 5 seconds. And even when he talks to me about the case law, I'm staring at him, but it's like nothing's coming through. But then like you get me in front of data and the spreadsheet and whatnot, and I'm there zeroed in.
I know that we before talked about how you have anxiety a lot. Does a job like that create anxiety? And do you find it difficult? Like if you had a day where like maybe you wake up and you're a little bit anxious and you have to go to work, does it make your job difficult?
When I did the fraud job, or just
anything that's like analytical?
The analytical, that's like a relief for me.
Oh, okay.
That's where if I feel stressed out with work, like then in emails and meetings and I like put that to the side and I'll only do data, because that for me is like a calming effect.
Because you can kind of like zone in.
Yes, I can just like concentrate, be in my element, and be good. Where the constant emails and meetings and getting pulled in different directions, and that's what brings out the anxiety. Where I'm like a puzzle solver. I like solving puzzles, and that's what the data is for me too.
That brings it back to the last conversation we had. You guys said you were doing a puzzle on, what was it, Christmas or?
Oh yeah, we did a 500-piece Rapunzel puzzle. We're now on Peter Pan. We're about halfway through with the Peter Pan.
It was hilarious watching Michael talk about it, because he's a fighter. Yeah. So he's like, we sat home and did a puzzle. I'm just
of Rapunzel. Yep. Yep. That's what we do, and that's my personality. I like doing that stuff. So for me, the data, I analyze it. I figure out, solve a problem. You know, I like to just dive in and solve things. Where the other stuff is more overwhelming to me. That's what triggers the anxiety.
It probably makes your job a little bit more meaningful, because you have like you said, a puzzle to solve. Yeah. Like for me, I go to work, I put parts on a car, and I go home. It's the same thing every day, day in, day out. There's nothing different about it. It's not impactful. I mean, yeah, I'm building cars for somebody who needs a car, but it's like you don't see the customer, right? You don't like associate it with somebody. It's just an object that you're building. And so for me, it's just a job. But like for you, you go to work and you're doing something kind of impactful for yourself.
Yeah, I like my job. I like what I do. I like why I do it. Our work directly impacts people who are receiving services on our program. We have, we used to sit down and have not meetings, but like get-togethers with some of the beneficiaries in our program. And so like hearing their stories, saying this program changed my life. I would be in a nursing home if it wasn't for this program. Those are the things that sometimes when we get stressed out, we have to bring ourselves back to. Like, this is why we do what we do. Right. This is who we're helping. The downside of that is there's some days that I envy people with jobs like yours, because I'll be at 10 o'clock at night thinking about what work I still need to do. Right. And it never ends. And if I don't do this, what is it going to impact? What's the downstream impacts of this? Like it's an ongoing thought process.
Yeah. There's definitely ups and downs to it, right? Like for me, it's good, but it's bad at the same time. Like I'm at work and like I do a podcast. So like I'll put in my headphones and I'll listen to other podcasts and then I'll think about like, okay, how can I like revamp my podcast? Yeah. So I'm always constantly like thinking about like myself and like what I can do to better it. But like a job like yours, you don't really have time to reflect on like your life and like goals and like while you're working. Like you got to focus directly on that.
Yeah. It's a very busy job. I mean, I obviously can't speak for every position in the state of Michigan, but my team, like we bust our asses every single day. And if anybody is out for, maternity leaves or whatever, I mean, there's
pick up the slack.
There's no hesitation. Like everyone's just like, yep, I got it. Right. And that's why we function the way that we do, and I love my team for that exact reason. Yeah. I just in last May, I got moved up and I manage a team now. And there's 4 girls that I help out with, and they're the same way. Like it's fantastic. Everybody's like, what do you need me to do?
Yeah, it's always a shitty thing when you get somebody who's like a shitty team member, and then they don't want to pick up extra slack while you're struggling.
Well, everyone else is drowning.
Yeah,
and there's really none of that. Like, there's nobody that's like, that's not my job description.
That's
or like,
awesome.
Everyone's just like, okay, I'm a contract manager today. I'm doing quality, or today I'm doing like, whatever.
You guys obviously aren't union.
No.
Yeah,
there is state of Michigan people who are, but our positions are not. Okay. I don't know exactly how they determine which ones are and aren't and all of that. But
at our job, if like somebody doesn't show up and there's nobody on a job, people are like, I'm not doing 2 jobs. Mm-hmm. I'm not doing extra.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I was on paper doing 2 jobs for like 2.5 years.
And you didn't get paid any extra?
No. Wow. 1 year I did. I worked out of class for a year. So like on paper, I was working out of class in that higher up job, but I never gave up the old job.
Oh.
So
you chose to do that?
Yeah, I did. I had 2 positions, and then the plan was after a year, then I would move into that position permanently.
Okay.
But right at that same time, they were, getting ready to post it, all of that. And then COVID hit, hiring freeze, everything basically stopped. But the work doesn't stop.
Right.
So I could have said, I'm not getting paid for that job anymore. I'm not doing it. But all that does is now impact my team.
Because they got to pick up.
Because somebody has to pick up the slack.
Yeah.
Or if no one does it, it's going to impact us. And then if that doesn't get done, it's going to impact the people receiving services. Yeah. So like there was times that it was extremely stressful, but I couldn't sleep at night just being like, nope, you're not paying me for it. I'm not doing it. And there were lines. I mean, I had conversations with my boss towards the end of the 2 years of doing it without the title or the pay, that I was like, I need to prioritize myself, and there might be some things that fall through because I'm one person, right?
Right.
So I did have those lines, but also to the extent that I could, I kept up with the work because there's no one else to do it. And if I said no, then it's going to fall in somebody else's lap.
Right.
So
and then it makes you feel shitty.
And then, I'm not going to feel good about myself. And actually that work was the work that I enjoyed the most.
Oh, okay.
So it was like, I had to prioritize what my actual job was first.
Right.
But then that was also a little bit of like relief from my actual job. So it was a juggling act for sure. But and I find that about most people that work there. It's like, if you work in public service, you're not in it for the money, right? I mean,
yeah. Is it good paying?
It is.
Okay.
It is. But like me personally, with the master's degree and the experience I have, I could go to the private sector, especially right now,
and make a lot of
jobs being so, or companies needing to fill positions. I could negotiate for much higher probably than what I'm making, and so it is good paying, and we have good benefits and all of that, for sure. But in this world currently, with everybody fighting for employees, I could leave and walk away at the private sector much higher.
But working in the public service, you're kind of always guaranteed a job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you're not going to get laid off.
No, very rarely does that happen.
I mean, obviously, COVID was like a big sign of that, right?
Yeah.
Like of what is actually important and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
And they still had you guys working, right? You started working from home.
We just went home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And actually, productivity went up when everyone went home. Mm-hmm. Which is why all areas that can be home pretty much are home still.
I heard something about that, how a lot of the state workers aren't coming back to offices because, for one, they don't have to pay for rent or whatever.
Right. They save the overhead.
Yeah, it's cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you think that's going to affect like Lansing? Because a lot of the downtown businesses kind of rely on the state workers to go out for lunch or dinner.
They do. And it will affect them, but you also have to weigh the pros and cons and the benefits and whatnot. And as much as that is going to be tough on those businesses, to me, it's not enough to justify paying all of that overhead coming out of essentially taxpayer money when everybody can do the same job at a higher productivity from home. Like it's a kind of I don't know. It is going to impact them, and that is unfortunate. But
I think it just requires people to have to revamp the way they do things, right? I mean, you can't depend solely on people who come to work Monday through Friday.
Right.
from like 6 to whatever 5 or whatever it is. You got to like target a different market.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's happening with COVID across the board. Like, no matter what the situation is, people are having to change how they live, change how they do business.
Yeah.
It's just kind of part of the ever evolving market right now.
I think COVID was really good for a lot of people as far as like having to figure out, okay, I don't like the job I'm working, so I'm going to quit and start a business. Or I'm going to use this to get in shape because I'm not fit. I could get COVID and I could die.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I don't think too many people made that choice, but there was some people who did.
And I do think that we could have, as a society and media and whatnot, taken a little bit of a different direction with COVID, and we could have highlighted healthy tips. We could have highlighted the benefits of eating healthy and working out and being at a good place in your body, and how that's going to help you with COVID. I mean, we missed an opportunity there, I think, as a society.
Yeah, I think we were too focused on what could happen, like deaths and now it's the vaccine. There's always like some sort of narrative that they try to push. Like, you need to mask up and you need to be 6 feet apart. You need to, I don't remember some of the narratives that they were pushing back then, but there was so many things that kept coming out. And it's like, why aren't you talking about working out or like losing, like getting skinny, or not skinny, but losing weight? America's so overweight.
And that's like I think they came out and said obesity is the number one indicator that you're going to be hospitalized for COVID.
Yeah.
And we still haven't talked about that whole realm.
No.
And that, the mask up, the stay home, stop the spread. I understand all of that, but we never once started to take responsibility for ourselves and our own health.
Right.
We're always saying, don't spread it to somebody else. Somebody else could spread it to you, so don't go here.
I think some of it has to do with like fat shaming too. Like they don't want to fat shame somebody. Like, if you're telling somebody that, you're overweight, you need to lose weight because you could get COVID and you could die. And
to me, it's not, you don't have to take that route, right? I mean, it's a different thing to say, like, you need to physically be healthy than to say, go get skinny.
Right.
I mean, those are two very different messages.
Yeah.
And you can be overweight.
Yeah.
But still in a more healthy category. I mean, it's about a healthy weight, not what society deems as a, like, on a cover of a magazine weight, or, that's, we can go into a whole conversation about fat shaming, but this is more like, are you physically healthy? Well, regardless of your weight.
You don't need to be an athlete, right?
No.
Like, I mean, obviously you're married to an athlete, so like, I'm sure that provides like a whole new level of fitness for you. Like, like you probably push yourself way harder because you live with somebody who's pushing himself really hard. It's just kind of a given, right?
Right.
But for some people, you just need to do something. Get off the couch. You're home. Get off the couch. Stop watching TV.
Right. Well, and I think, I mean, we had this conversation the last time that when COVID hit and we all didn't know and whatnot, I was skinny. I wasn't fat.
Yeah.
I wasn't in shape.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I say, like, there's a whole different conversation.
Was there a difference in how you felt? Because obviously, like, a lot of people would probably look at you and be like, "Oh, you're fit. You're in shape. You're skinny." Was there a difference in how you felt, like, as far as like health wise? Did you feel healthier?
Oh, less? Yeah. I would get all of the time people like, you need to go eat a cheeseburger, and like all those comments, like, you're so skinny, and which I was always like, okay, like, I do eat cheeseburgers. I don't know what you want me to say, but also like that, you promoting that, saying that I'm so skinny or whatnot, like, that's not promoting me to get healthy.
Yeah.
I wasn't healthy just because I was skinny, and I felt tired all the time. I didn't feel strong at all. I was in like a blah, just going through life, like never really feeling like I feel really good.
Right.
Like, it was just like, I'm fine.
Right.
And then once I started to get in shape, and it was like this whole other world reopened back up of like, I'm strong again.
Yeah.
I'm capable again.
It builds confidence.
Yes, I have confidence. I have energy.
Yeah.
I want to now eat better. I want to go walk instead of drive. Like, it starts opening that door up, and it's a whole different mentality. So not only was I physically getting in shape, but the mental aspect of it was also huge, and especially with anxiety. Like, that's a huge relief.
We talked about it before, but what is anxiety like for you? And I know beforehand you had said that before you started working out and getting in shape, anxiety was kind of worse. You would have panic attacks and whatnot, and you haven't really had any since.
So yeah, I've had panic attacks. My first one was I was 10 years old. And it was over homework, I think.
What is a panic attack like? Like, what does it look like?
For me, it can look different for everybody, but for me, it becomes, my heart races extremely fast. Sometimes my hands go numb. Sometimes my face will go numb. And the thought processes are unexplainably fast. Like you're jumping from thought to thought to thought to thought in a way that I can't even, it's like rapid fire. But they can be all different. They can be related. They can be from, you don't even finish one and your mind is on to the next one.
Wow.
And like you can't, and for me too, it's almost like a out of body experience a little bit, because it's like, you don't feel like you're in your own body because you don't feel in control. Like there's that lack of control of what's happening in your brain and in your body can be terrifying.
What do you think that is? What do you think a panic attack is?
I think it's just for me, it's like almost an anxiety overload, because I will go for weeks and not feel like I'm anxious, or I would, because I'm shoving it down. I'm like telling myself not to feel those feelings. And then my body's like, nope, we're going to feel those feelings, but it's going to come out in the form of a panic attack. And so it's almost like in a volcano, you let it build and then it explodes. And over the years, I've learned how to process those, how to basically feel the feelings before they come out. Part of it is I've always had a very overachiever personality. So if something's not perfect, if I fail at something, it can set off like a spiral. And it's, I shouldn't say it's not always overachiever, but I have a do-it-all personality. I can be a mom and work 4 jobs and keep the house clean and cook dinner every night and work out. And I can do all these things. Yeah. And if I don't, I'm a failure. And we all know that that's not true, right? Like we all know logically, nobody can do all those things and not have a break.
Right.
But there's a piece of me that's always like, I can do more, I can do more, I can be more. And if I'm not, I'm failing.
So like if you sit down to relax, your mind's probably always going about what I can, like, what can I be doing right now?
Yes, always. And
my wife's that way. It irritates me.
And Michael's always like, my husband's always like, sit down. Like, you need to relax.
Yeah.
Like, we can do the dishes later. Like, it's fine. Yeah. You need a moment to just relax. And actually, typically those moments of relaxing for a while, I avoided because I knew I was stressed, and I knew if I sat down and let my mind relax, I was going to have a panic attack.
Wow.
So I would just avoid it, which isn't good either.
Right.
It's going to happen at some point.
Right.
You have to learn how to process them as they go. And working out is huge for me with that. If I start to feel anxious or whatnot, I can go downstairs, kind of let it out. And I had my panic attacks pretty well under control, even not working out. But then when COVID hit, all of my coping mechanisms, all of my routine, everything that I used to survive on to avoid panic attacks was gone. You know, you there's always those things that you think you can count on.
Right.
I'm going to go to work every day.
Right.
I'm going to be able to see my friends if I need a release. I'm going to be able to do this. And with COVID, all of that went out the window. Especially
when you're at home and like you said, your daughter was there and you're trying to do your job, and then you're looking at all the things you need to do around the house, and you're like, this is just super overwhelming.
Yeah. I couldn't keep up. And then you turn on the news and it's just like everyone dying. Like that's all that you're hearing.
Yeah.
And so, you
think you're going to be next.
Right. And we didn't know at the beginning of COVID, like we thought it was going to just take everybody out, you know, we didn't know. And so to deal with all of that at one time, you know, she's talking to me, I'm trying to keep doing my job. My job got, not harder, but more things because of COVID, you know, are put on us. Mm-hmm. And then Michael's trying to do his job right, you know, across the room. We're both on conference calls. She's watching cartoons and singing, and we're yelling at her to be quiet. And it just wasn't a good environment for anybody. And that's when, for me, it really started to set off again. And that's why I got back into working out. That was my 30 minutes of like, I'm closing the door, locking it. Nobody come in here. Nobody talk to me. Like, this is my time. And I fell in love with it. And then I started to see the changes. I started to feel the changes mostly. And I got addicted. I got addicted to those feelings, addicted to the high, addicted to watching my body transform, and addicted to like, oh, I used to do this with 5 pounds. Now I'm doing it with 10.
Yeah.
Like that progress just became my focus. That was now my addiction, is watching myself and what I was capable of unfold.
Yeah.
And I kind of talked about it on the last one, but part of that too, before, is like before I met Michael, and about a year prior, I was going through a divorce. And so for me, emotionally, that was a pretty rock bottom. You know, it was.
How could it not be?
Right. I mean, I was living on my own for the first time in my life with a kid. And I mean, shared custody, but just, I had so many doubts on if I could do that. Can I survive? Can I make it work? Can I be a single parent? You know, can I walk away? Like, there's so many doubts that I had in my mind. And then I got through all of that, and I came out stronger on the other side. And so I think in that process, taught myself, like, I can do hard things. I am capable. If I can get through that, throw at me whatever you want to throw at me. I mean, I was almost, not numb, but just kind of like, I can get through anything right now. Like, nothing's going to hurt me at this point. I just went through the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that kind of opened the door of like things that I never thought I could do. I did.
There's so many people that go through situations like that, like a divorce or even a death of somebody, and then they let it define who they are. And it's tragic, I think, because you could always take a situation, no matter how tragic it is, and turn it and use it for the good, to better your life or to help other people.
Absolutely. Instead,
a lot of people, I know some people, they talk about it all the time. They never get out of that space because that moment defined them, and it hinders the rest of their life. It hinders other relationships, their everything.
Yeah. And I think you have to go through the full process of what you went through too. Like, you have to go through the denial, the grief, the anger, the sadness, if you don't feel, and the healing, because if you don't feel all of it, you're not going to heal.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
You have to hit that low point. You can't put it off. You can't try to numb it with whatever you're using to numb it. Yeah. You have to actually go through it and feel it. And then once you do, you can come out on the other side. And I think a lot of people, that's what they don't do. They try to avoid those feelings because they suck, right?
They do suck. It's not easy.
Like, they suck.
Yeah.
I went to therapy. It was a godsend. Like, I literally will tell anybody, no matter what you've been through, to go to therapy one time in your life. Like, the doors that opened for me, you have to find a good therapist. For sure. You have to find one you connect with, and sometimes it takes a few.
Yeah.
But it opened so many different thought patterns for me that I never knew existed.
You almost need just someone to talk to. And someone who is trained to just kind of communicate with you and explain to you how you're feeling, and like, okay, this is what that is.
Right.
Maybe you should try this. And then I went to therapy a couple of years, about 5 years ago. And it completely changed me and helped me. I mean, before that, I was like I don't know, I was angry all the time. Like, I had pent up anger and I wouldn't say anxiety, but like, I'd be anxious about things, you know, and it helped me. Like, now I feel great. Yeah. And it's not like this magical thing.
No.
You know, it's like, it just helps you realize what issues you have and what you can work on. And
and sometimes when you say something out loud and then you're like, oh, that sounds different than it did.
I sound like an idiot
in my head. Like, you know, when I was going through my really anxious period during COVID, where it was virtual school, still working from home, you know, trying to do all of the things. And I was like, I remember telling my therapist basically, like, I should be able to do it all. Like, I don't understand why I can't do it all. And she said, if your daughter came to you with what you're telling me, that she's struggling to do all of these things that you just listed to me, what would you tell her that she's failing? Or would you tell her that she's trying, but nobody in their right mind can honestly do all of those things? And she said, stop putting that expectation on herself. And so when she flipped it to what I would tell my kid, which I would say, you're like, what are you talking about? You're doing fantastic.
You're
like,
killing it.
You're killing it.
Yeah.
And she's like, why aren't you telling that to yourself? Like, flip this.
Right.
Because you're teaching her right now that it's okay to beat yourself up over the fact that you're not doing it all.
Right.
You're not teaching her to rest. You're not teaching her that you need breaks.
You're teaching her that it's okay to like feel not like you're not doing enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like she's like, you're teaching her that it's this overwhelmed feeling is normal and that you should just always be in the state of panic that like, oh, there's more to do, instead of like, hey, mom needs to sit down for a while and that's okay.
Right.
And when it flipped like that and we start talking to ourselves like we would talk to our kids or our loved ones, you know, if they came to us with the same problem, I think that's a different perspective. And we're always our own toughest critics.
Oh yeah.
You know, we always beat ourselves up. And
Yep.
when you start making your body your friend and your mind your friend, that's when things start to shift.
Yeah.
And not everyone's perfect. I mean, I still have days, of course, but I've learned to treat myself like I would someone that I cared about.
Yeah.
I do, right?
Yeah.
But you have to be cognizant of what you're saying to yourself and that it is impacting then your thoughts and your actions and your feelings.
So when you have a morning where you wake up and you're feeling a little anxious and you feel a little stressed out, what do you do? Do you just work out?
Yeah,
What kind of workouts do you do?
Lifting.
Yeah.
If I'm
like a power lifter?
No, but I won't do a cardio workout.
Okay. Why not?
It just doesn't.
You feel like you're in your mind a little bit more?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get the same benefit out. I like doing cardio on days that I wake up like energized and like I'm good. Where the lifting, I put on loud music and like I just go.
I feel like whenever I'm like in a mood, I'm gonna say mood because I don't feel like I get like anxiety that often. Like I'm pretty easygoing as far as that goes. But like if I'm like upset about something or whatever, I feel like lifting helps expend like all that energy, and then you can come back to whatever it was and feel okay.
Yes, that's how it is.
Yeah.
For me too, and I'll lift heavier. You know, just there's something about that for me. I know some people it's running, but for me it's always lifting. We have a sauna, and
which I'm jealous of.
that actually for people with anxiety, if that is actually huge.
Sauna.
Because I've actually gone in them in the middle of a panic attack before, because your mind now shifts on the mechanism of cooling yourself off. And so you're now focused on you're hot, you're sweating, your breath. Yeah. And so it takes your mind off of whatever those crazy thoughts were, and you're shifted to that sweating it out,
right?
You know, the warmth of the sauna. Now you're breathing, things like that.
That's
it's actually stopped a panic attack for me. Like
that's a really good idea.
Cycle.
I never thought about that. I guess I kind of assumed that going into a sauna would create like more like anxiety because you feel like you're kind of suffocating because of the heat or whatever. But that makes sense if you go in there knowing that. I feel like my mic sounds weird. Does it sound weird? No.
To me.
If you go in there knowing like, okay, I just need to breathe, focus on that, and then you can get through it. Like that's probably everything.
Yep. And your body shifts from focusing on all those crazy irrational thoughts that were bouncing around in your head to now you're in a infrared room. I have an infrared sauna. And now I need to focus on cooling the body down. We need to sweat. We need to go through our like normal physiological mechanisms in a sauna. And so it kind of shifts it for your body.
What's better, like a wet sauna or a infrared sauna?
I prefer the infrared for two reasons. One, in the home, it's a lot less maintenance.
Okay.
Because you don't have to have the hot rocks and pour the water and everything. It's just turn it on. It's just an electric, thing. You turn it on, it warms up within 5 minutes, and it's good. I also don't like the wet saunas for the exact reason that you just said, where you feel like you can't breathe, because the room is actually hot. Where infrared, the room is not really that much hotter. I don't even know how it works. Like you can have your phone in there and it doesn't really heat up. Like it's heating up, not through the air, but through like the infrared panels. So it's a different feeling. But in the regular saunas, I get like that where I'm like, oh my God, I'm suffocating.
Right.
Like I can't breathe. It's 180 in this room. And our sauna is 140. And I'm sitting in there like I would be sitting right here, but I'm dripping wet. Like, and so I'm sweating profusely. But
have you noticed any other benefits from the sauna, from sauna use?
I know there's a ton of benefits. They say that there's a study out there that 30 minutes in the sauna is the same as a 30-minute cardio workout for your heart.
I'm getting a sauna.
In an infrared sauna. In an infrared.
Okay.
Again, I don't know all of the mechanisms behind that, but in infrared specifically. So 30, and that's, it's for people too that are like just getting into fitness and struggling and whatnot. The sauna is huge, benefit wise.
Helps you sweat out all the toxins in your body.
Yeah,
and
you feel great afterwards.
It's a good way to detox.
And it does raise your heart rate.
Yeah.
So it is like you're starting out, like going for a walk.
You're right.
And so for somebody that's new to fitness, that can be a good way to kind of intro.
Do you ever do yoga?
I do.
In the sauna?
I don't have room in my sauna.
No, okay.
For yoga, but I do like yoga. Actually, I love hot yoga.
I love hot yoga too.
And I haven't been since COVID because they were requiring masks, and I can't imagine.
You can't do hot yoga with a mask.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
The amount of sweat that comes through. But I do really enjoy hot yoga.
We've gone to East Lansing hot yoga, and we love it. I even took my friend who's severely overweight, and he went because anybody can do yoga. It's not like a level thing. It's you just do whatever you can do.
Right.
And he came out of there drenched in sweat.
Yeah.
He's like trying to do like downward dog, and he's like slipping. And it's one of the best feelings coming out of there covered in sweat.
It is, and that's why I love our sauna, because you come out of there and it's like you just sweat out everything from the past week or whatever, how long it's been, and you're like renewed and refreshed, and
it's almost as I'd say it's better than doing cardio, like as far as how you feel when you come out of there. Like if you went into a workout and you were stressed and you had anxiety or whatever, and you feel good afterwards, but when you go into a hot yoga session and you struggle in that class and you come out all covered in sweat, you don't give a fuck about anything.
I know. Hot yoga is because not only are you're getting the sweat from the heat and whatnot, but yoga alone is very beneficial.
Yeah.
Mind, body, everything.
Yeah.
So the combination of that, when you walk out, you're like a whole different person.
Yeah.
I love it. I think everybody should do hot yoga.
I agree. I recommend it all the time. I actually haven't done it in a couple of years, but I need to.
I know. I was going to look recently and see if they were still requiring the masks to get back into it. But
yeah, I enjoy it. And then it makes me feel like I'm not doing enough when I see some of the yogis in there who are like shirtless and they're in the front of the class.
I know.
They're doing handstands before the class.
I know. But as long as like you're getting the stretch out of it, like you said, that you don't have to meet a certain like threshold to do it.
Do you do any like meditation or anything?
Sometimes. And that's one of the other thing my therapist said, because I was like, I don't know how to meditate. And she's like, when people tell me they don't know how to meditate or they suck at meditating, those are the people who need to meditate. Because even in like the hot yoga classes, when it's the time to just sit there and breathe, I'm like looking around. Like I'm that person that like can't relax. And I'm like,
so you can't go to church and pray?
What are we, like, I'm really bad at focusing. And, but actually when I do meditate, it's in my sauna.
Okay.
That's typically when I will do it.
So you're already focusing on your breath and staying focused. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember the first time I went to hot yoga. It was the first time I ever meditated too. It was after the class. You're laying there, you're relaxing.
That's when I'm like.
And they're doing like a kind of a guided meditation.
Yeah.
And I was focusing on my breath work, and then all of a sudden, like it was weird because it felt like I was laying on a beach.
Yeah.
And I was like picturing it in my mind. And then the class was over, and then it was like I snapped out of it. I'm like, whoa, I want to go to a beach.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
You can actually, like I said, I don't do it too often, but I have gotten to the point where it's almost like a high, where you're just in a whole different
state of mind.
Yeah. It's a very different mind shift.
Yeah.
Not a high where you're like going crazy, but like
no,
you feel this like
it's like a euphoria about you.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. Very euphoric feeling.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like you can, when they like are done, you snap and you're like, whoa, like where am I?
It's almost like being hypnotized.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's real strange.
Yeah. But it has huge benefits for people.
Yeah. Could you ever see yourself as a yogi?
No. No. I love it, but I'm more of the lifter and like I said, but when I'm resisting yoga, that's when I make myself do it. Because I know if I'm resisting it, that means I'm resisting being in my thoughts. That means I'm resisting calming down, which means I need to do it.
Yeah.
So I try to incorporate it.
I think a lot of people don't like yoga because it can be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're doing poses that you've never done before or stretches, and then you're not able to do it, but you see other people doing it, it can be so discouraging.
Mm-hmm.
But the benefits of keep doing it,
just
keep going, is tremendous.
Yeah. Yeah. The not only the physical benefits of yoga, everything opening up. I mean, there's studies on yoga and how it helps even like organs, which is crazy. You know, like you're like, how does that even relate? But it does.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you know, the stretching, the breath work, everything that comes along with it has enormous benefits.
I created a workout plan for my dad last week, and one thing I was telling him was like, you should do yoga because he has like back problems and whatnot. And I'm like, it would be very beneficial for you. I would highly recommend anybody do yoga like before lifting weights because you're focusing on your balance and you're working those muscles that are necessary.
Yep.
And, but the thing is a lot of people look at like yoga or like weightlifting or running or any form of cardio as like separate things. Like, okay, I'm a runner, so that's what you do. Or I'm a weightlifter, that's what you do. Or you're a yogi, you can only do those things, where I think it's beneficial to do everything.
Oh, absolutely.
And it mixes it up.
Absolutely. And that's also where if you don't mix it up, your body will plateau.
Yeah.
If you're doing the same thing and being like, I'm not getting progress, that's why. You have to change it up. Even if you're only a lifter, you have to change up your lifts.
Yeah.
If you're only a runner, you have your body will just get used to what you're doing and you'll stop progressing.
Yeah.
And so when you start to, if you're always a lifter and then you do a yoga class where you're using those small muscles that you don't even know you have, like you're like, where is this coming from? And those small muscle groups, but then that now opens up the door for benefits in those other areas.
And it makes you appreciate it more too. Like I'd mentioned the last time on the podcast with you that my wife was doing bar workouts and I did a bar workout with her and I'm like, this is hard.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, people look at like ballerinas like, okay, they're ballerinas.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to stand on the tips of your toes.
Absolutely. Like that one that because like Michael's done a few of them with me, and there was one, it was a glutes workout and it was with resistance bands. And it was like a week. He was like, I still feel that. And I was sore for like a day, but I had been doing that sort of stuff for a while.
Right.
And I mean, he's a professional UFC athlete that trains, I don't even know how many hours a week, but he doesn't train those little muscle groups all the time.
Right.
And so when he did that and he was sore for like a full week, and he's like, this is no joke. Like I'm still struggling to walk. Like, and he'll tell it's, that's where when people with my at home workouts and it's like, you can't get results at home. And I'm like, you can.
You definitely can.
Or you don't even need weights. I mean, we talked about this before. Like there's so much you can do with
yoga,
just your
body weight. Yeah.
That is incredible. You don't need a full set of weights.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you can do, and you can do it in 20 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
You also don't need hours upon hours to do it. And
that's one thing I was just telling my dad because he had messaged me. He's like, hey, can you train me in kettlebells? And I'm like, yeah, I'll train you in kettlebells. Come on over. I'll show you some things. And then he came over and I'm like, you don't need kettlebells. You need body weight. That's what you need.
Yeah. That's how you start out.
And And there's no shame in that at all.
No, absolutely not.
Because I still do body weight stuff sometimes.
Yeah. There's still like even in my workouts, there's things that I modify.
Yeah.
That I'm like, okay, that's too much. You know, I just need body weight. I've had 3 shoulder surgeries.
Really?
And yeah.
Holy cow! From what?
From cheer. And so there's still the last one that they did, because the second one on my left, they were concerned about it tearing again. And so they purposely like really tightened it. So it's almost like forward. And so the range is on purpose shorter so that it doesn't tear again.
Oof.
So there's certain workouts that I can't do.
Like overhead press?
I can do push-ups is a big one.
Okay.
Because that position, like where it's open right here, is where it was torn.
Oh,
and so I
okay.
have to keep it narrower, or do them on my knees so that I can keep it more controlled.
Right.
But again, that's fine. Like if I'm doing 25 push-ups on my knees versus 25 push-ups on my toes, I'm still getting a benefit.
Right.
You know, and that's where I think people still sometimes, if they aren't doing it all, then they're like, I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
I'm like, but you're still getting, you're still working out.
Yeah.
Like, that's like me saying, I'm not going to do my like squats because I'm using 20 pounds where someone over here is using a 45. Like,
or it's like saying, because I can't run a mile,
I'm not going to run.
I'm not going to run.
Right. But it's like,
it's something you train up to.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're still getting the benefit that whole time. You run around your block. It's
right.
still helping you. There's literally at no point is it hurting you to do what little you're doing.
Sometimes
what you're doing.
Like if I'm not in running shape, because I don't like to run in the wintertime, in the spring, I'll go out front and I'll just do sprints.
Yeah.
Up and down to a couple driveways.
Yeah.
I'll just sprint as fast as I can. I'll do that for like a couple weeks.
Yep.
And then I'm back into running shape and I feel like I can go long distance. It'd be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that people don't like to push themselves. They don't like that period of where they're struggling.
The uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
You have to go through the uncomfortable. But you will never find that full sense of accomplishment and what you're truly capable of without going through uncomfortable. And how do you get to something that's rewarding without going through uncomfortable? It's what's rewarding about it. You didn't go through anything.
You didn't struggle.
Yeah. You know, the getting through the uncomfortable, getting through the hardships, that's how you progress. That's how you learn. That's how you develop. Where if it's just comfortable all the time, there's nothing that you're overcoming. There's no I climbed the mountain feeling. Well,
and that's what makes me think too about you and Micheal, your guys' relationship. I kind of want to talk about this aspect before we wrap this up, but Micheal had quit his job, a career job, a good job to pursue his training in the UFC. And a lot of people, when they think of the UFC or they think of like a professional athlete, when they hear that, they're like, oh, like you got money, like you're doing good, like you're gonna make it, like you're at the top. But it's really not like that.
Not like that.
It's not like that at all.
No.
It's the struggle is real.
Yes.
You're having to pay for your training and pay for probably flights back and forth to fights and all kinds of things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What is that like? What is it like being the wife of a UFC fighter or a fighter in general?
It's there's obviously the excitement piece, right? Like even when they're not in the UFC, because it is pretty badass. And I mean, like being real. So there's obviously an excitement piece and whatnot, but there's so much more that people don't see. There's so much more struggle that people don't see. There's hours upon hours of training and coming home and doing ice baths and, CBD lotions and stuff because everything is so sore and getting up the next day and doing it again.
Right.
Then there's obviously the financial piece that you mentioned. There is just because you've made it to the UFC, that's the start of getting there. I mean, it's obviously huge. It's a huge accomplishment. Getting there is something that a lot of people will never do. So that's a huge, huge thing. But just because you're there doesn't mean that you're at this like professional athlete people think financially.
Right. Another thing that comes to my mind is not just the like financial aspect of it, but also like the emotional aspect because when you go into a fight, you're putting everything, I mean, in any pursuit, Like if you're an athlete, you go to like a game, you're giving it your all.
Yeah.
And if you go into a fight and you lose and you have to come home.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with the emotion side of that. What is that like to see? Like, what is it like to see Micheal go through something like that?
It sucks. I mean, he will be quiet, not really want to talk about it. It takes a couple days to process. I try to just give him the space to do it. Actually, there's only been really one loss since we've been together, which was the last one, because when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, he was in we didn't have any method of communication.
Right.
So I didn't know about anything until after he was already home. So I've only had to be there really for the one time, but it sucks. And you watch like all of those hours and sweat and literally blood and tears and everything that's poured into it. And then it is just kind of like that defeat of you went through all of that.
Yeah.
And that's what you walked away with. And then, or the fighters that, they go through that over and over and over again, win, loss, chasing that dream, and they never get there. And there's so much struggle with it. And
that it makes me think too, because like a lot of people, when they go through a hard situation, whether it doesn't need to be like a physical thing, but like if they didn't get a raise at a job or something, it makes them want to give up. They don't want to pursue that anymore. They're like, you know what? I suck. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
For a fighter, I imagine that's got to be really tough, because like for me, it's tough, like to fail at something. I think I would feel like a complete failure.
Yeah, and a lot of them have, friends and family saying like, what are you doing? Like, you're never going to make it big in this. Like, why are you spending
Fuck those friends and family.
Right. But like, why are you spending all of your time, money, effort? Like there's fighters that lived out of their cars. They lived in gyms, like chasing that dream that most people doubted them that they'd ever make anything of themselves doing it. And obviously to be a fighter, there's got to be some level of confidence. But they have to fully believe that they're going to get there someday. And I'm one of those people that is, in a lot of situations, if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to prove you wrong.
I like that.
But in other situations, I can be where I'm like, okay, like I'm just not going to do that, because we kind of talked about this last time, I've never had a dream like that where I'm going to give up essentially everything to chase this dream.
Yeah.
I've never had anything where I'm like, I would give up all of the comforts in my job and my, to chase this. So I respect the hell out of it. It's hard for me to understand just because I've never had something that important of a dream that I'm going to go chase.
Do you think it had something to do too with the fact that he did have like a career job and he realized that, this isn't something I want to do maybe forever. Like I want to have a life where I'm fulfilling something, or I'm doing something that's fulfilling, like I'm chasing it like a dream. Because a lot of people, including myself, you get stuck in a job and then you're stuck there. You don't have other options. You can't just go do whatever you want to go do because you have responsibilities.
Yeah. Well, and actually he loved his job. He wanted to work. He wanted to just take an unpaid leave of absence and come back and work. He's always worked while fighting. He loved his job. Like that wasn't even a thought of like, oh, I'm going to quit. Like he was essentially forced to quit because they said no.
Yeah.
The company said no. And so he was like, well, I'm going to go do this. So like, I'm not going to shut the door on this opportunity. And I was the same. I mean, when he talked to me about it, that was my response too. It's like, no, you're absolutely going.
What was that phone call like? Hey, babe.
It was, because we weren't sure. It was like months on end because of COVID. They kept changing the date. And then finally, it was like down to the wire. His job was like, no, we're not doing this. But we had conversations like, what if they say no? And because he kept thinking, I think they'll let me. And I was more, I don't think they're going to let you. Just from like the vibes that I was getting in conversations he was telling me about. And so we had to have the conversation of if they don't. And he's like, I want to do this. And I'm like, no, you're absolutely doing this. I mean, to me, there is zero hesitation in that. Like when something like that comes knocking, you absolutely do not slam the door on that.
Yeah.
You figure it out.
Yeah.
Like you have one life to live, and this is a huge opportunity, whether or not it takes you anywhere or not.
Right.
Like the things that you're going to learn and just the experience. Like you've got 10 years of experience in your job. You can come back and find a job. I'm not worried about that.
I mean, and it happens to every professional athlete. I mean, there's obviously people like in the NFL that'll get signed and then they don't play and then they get let go and the next season or whatever. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
And then they just move on with life.
But to not take that.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. You have to take that.
And yeah, like there's been times of struggle and we've had to work some things out and whatnot, but I don't regret a second of it. It's been hard, but it's also been really cool to watch him chase that dream and to be there and to be working for it. And now he has another fight, February 26th.
I seen that
coming out. Yeah. So, everybody watch, but,
well, it'll be on ESPN.
ESPN Plus, I think.
Okay.
And so like to see things coming to fruition and actually happening and whatnot. But there is that other side that people don't see of all of the struggles and whatnot, to get there.
Yeah.
And everything, the heartbreak, like you said, the emotional side of it.
Yeah.
The highs when there's the really, really big highs of winning. And then there's the really, really low lows of losing or not getting there after years of training.
Especially being in a professional sport, when you listen to like talk radio shows that talk about you losing and you're like, oh my gosh, like you can't escape it.
You can't escape it. You're on the biggest stage there in the world for professional fighting. So like,
which is crazy to me that they don't get paid unless they win. I mean, I don't want to like bash the UFC because I like the UFC, but it's crazy to me that they don't get paid anything.
No, you would get paid
like a stipend.
Half.
Oh, okay.
So it's like if you
but shouldn't they get paid more for fights?
Yeah, I think so. I think they should. And the hardest part isn't exactly what they get paid for fights, but it's the time. You never know how long you're going to go between fights. So that's like, I almost would rather have it set up where like you made less during your actual fight, but if you're on contract, you're making like a set amount every month because, and I don't exactly know how you would do that, but operationalizing it, but like, because if you have an injury or there's just not good matchups or whatnot, I mean, you could go
a year or two.
However long without a fight. And if that's your income,
right, what do you do?
And then you fight and you're not making a ton. We're not talking like NFL contracts here.
Yeah.
We're talking like regular salary amounts.
And you still have to train.
And you have to make that last and then train. Yeah. So that's where it's hard, where I do think that they should get make more per fight, but also it's the in-between fights that you're trying to make that little amount last, potentially not knowing when the next one is going to come up. Or what if you get hurt at practice and then you have to have a surgery and you're out for another 6 to 9 months. And if that's your income and that's all you're waiting for the next fight, that's tough.
Yeah, that is
and if
tough.
you don't have the support system, like we're fortunate where I'm in a good position with the state, I can pretty much support us.
Right.
And so, but a lot of people don't have that. And it's hard.
Yeah, that's one thing I was actually just telling my dad last week about you guys. I'm like, it's really cool to, well, I was telling him it's important to have a good support system. Yeah. It's important for your spouse to be supportive of what you're doing, what your dream is, and chasing your dream and helping you with it even. And I found that extremely incredible that you were like, yeah, quit your job, quit your job, chase your dream. You'll never get another chance at this. Yeah. Even though you realize like what kind of struggles are going to come. Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously you're an analytical person. You look at it like probably like our bills are going to
everything was like in my head, just what all the things that were going to come up. But because we were also planning a wedding. I mean, we were paying for a wedding that we're already struggling to pay for it, so
because they're not cheap.
They're not cheap. Right. Exactly. So like full transparency, we were already in that position. And then it was like, well, okay. But this is a limited window. It's not like something that you can say like, oh, we'll do that later. Yeah. No, like, that doesn't work with fighting. It's here and now. Yeah. And we have our whole entire lives to work. Yeah. So ride this out. We'll figure it out in the meantime. And then like I said, you move on. Yeah. And when it's all said and done, whatever that means, wherever that amounts to.
Yep.
Then we'll figure it out from there. But and even with me on a much, much smaller scale, but like my workouts and getting into shape and the beach body stuff that I do and the accountability community groups that I run and stuff like that. You know, Michael's always been extremely supportive in it. You know, I came from, when we met, like I was not working out, not in shape at all, very weak, and trying to build everything back up. And he never made fun of the home workouts. He never was like, oh, that's ridiculous. Or, you know, which like, that's a huge thing too. Like if you've got somebody that's constantly like bashing what you're trying to do when you're trying to build up, like it continuously can put you backwards.
I typically see that with like people who are losers, people who don't like have any like goals or like they aren't doing anything physical. They have no physical struggle. They don't understand like what it takes to like put all your energy and time into something to better yourself.
Yeah. And so that having that support from him too was huge. Like just being like, oh, like nice, you just did 30 minutes. Like having just that constant, it was the lack of the negativity with it, I guess, and supporting any little bit that I was doing.
Oh, I think it would be difficult too, like, or easy, I should say, for a professional athlete to be like, oh, you just did 30 minutes. Like, exactly. I just got done doing 2 hours on the mats.
And that's what he could have said. I mean, that's the mentality he could have taken. But that's not what he did, you know, and he would do some with me and just cheer me on the whole step of the way. And so I think for some people in those situations where they may be getting some of that negative feedback, it is harder to overcome. But I also tell those people that you're not doing it for them. Your goal is your goal, not their goal.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what their thoughts are on it. It's yours, not theirs.
Yeah, it just adds that extra support when you have somebody there to help you. Yeah,
it does. So we, like I said, it's a much smaller scale, but we do really try to support every single facet of what we're doing. And I may have not progressed to the level that I did, you know, without his support with it either. And like I said, the community that I have doing the workouts with me is huge too. I just did like a 3-day detox thing through Beachbody, and I did it with a friend, and that was huge. Like texting throughout it because it was very limited on things that we could eat. And when you're like opening your fridge and you're like, I want that, but to be able to text somebody and be like, no, like stay away from it, and you know, just helping each other out is nice. Or like, did you do your workouts today? Just having that sense of accountability and community.
Yeah, having accountability is everything. We used to do these fitness challenges at work with like a group of guys.
Yeah.
It was almost like we would just shame each other, and we would just talk shit to each other. We'd just be like, oh, look at you, you fat fuck. Like, cause we would do the in-body test and we'd do like get all our measurements. And then at the end of like 30 days or whatever it was, we would see who put on the most muscle mass, and it was like based on percentages and whatnot. And, we would always talk shit, and then the loser had to buy everybody dinner. And,
there you go.
Yeah. So it's always important. I think it's important to do those things. I mean, like I was telling somebody the other day, my wife and I used to work out together at the kettlebell gym, and it added like some sense of like accountability, and it helps push you. Yeah. Because you have somebody there who's also struggling, going through it with you. Yep. And it adds like a I don't know, like a challenge, like not a challenge, but like I don't know.
There's a different element than if it's just you.
It's like competition a little bit. Like you're competing with that person a little bit. It's fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was actually, I mean, one of the reasons I became a coach through Beachbody was, one, I wanted to show other people that they were also capable. You know, like where I came from thinking I could never do these things, and I did it. So I wanted other people to experience that, and that you can experience it without huge commitments, going to the gym, you know, things like that.
Right.
And so, but then also I did it to hold myself accountable. Yeah. Because I'm like, if there's other people looking at me to stuff, then like I need to make sure I'm staying on track.
Yeah.
You know, and it's helped me stay consistent with it and not let myself fall into those ruts that we sometimes let ourselves sink into.
Right.
So it's having that piece is huge.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Any inspiring words that you want to provide?
I don't know. I think just kind of the basis of everything, with my fitness and my change and whatnot. A couple things is stop weighing yourself.
Yes.
I think we said on the last podcast, you had asked me how much weight I had lost in my transformation, and the answer was 0. Stop weighing yourself. That is not the indication of your health or your fitness level. I am much more in shape. My body is very different looking, but I'm the same exact weight. So think about your non-scale victories. Are you lifting heavier? Are you running longer? Are you running shorter, sprinting faster? Whatever it is for you, that's your focus, not your weight. Especially for women, that's a huge, huge thing.
It's a huge, huge thing.
A huge problem. And because our bodies as women are designed to hold on to weight, more weight. So if you are focusing on that, you're never going to be happy with it. Look at everything else besides your weight. And then the other piece of it is like everybody starts somewhere, no matter where you start. I don't care if you're doing 1 squat a day or 1 push-up a day. Everybody starts somewhere, and I literally started from nothing. So
I think it's important to start from nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, because then you learn like, okay, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
This sucks. Yep. I don't want to be here again.
Yes. And when I do start to like sink down of like going a week or something without working out, and I feel awful again, and I remember the feeling of what I feel like when I do work out, and then I'm like, I need to get back there. That's my motivation, not like, oh, I feel like I'm like gaining weight again.
Right.
Or no, it's going to get back to that feeling of being fit and being strong and healthy and energized.
Yeah.
That's what you're shooting for. And that everybody can get there. There's everybody has a starting point, and stop comparing your starting point to others or where you're at in your journey to others. Yeah. And people, I get questions and stuff all the time, but I'm 2 years in right now. So the weights that I'm using now are triple what they were 2 years ago.
Right.
So I started out using little to no weights because I physically couldn't.
Right.
So now that I was using a 10, now I'm using a 30. But that was, if you only look now, that's what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But if you look back through the whole progress, I was starting out with 0 weights because I couldn't do weights. So everybody's going to have a different journey. The timeline's going to be different. And then also your body shape. I get comments and questions and stuff about that where I struggle gaining lower body muscle. I can do like 10 shoulder presses and I'm going to gain shoulder muscle, but I can do 2,000 squats and nothing's going to change.
Wow.
Like it's just it's going to take a lot longer.
Are you one of those girls that like, I need to get my butt bigger?
No, you
don't have a complex about that?
No, not really.
Because I think that's another hindrance for a lot, especially women, right? Yeah. Like they want to work their legs. They want everything to look toned. So they'll do a lot of like lower body stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously like, you want to have that toned figure and whatnot. Like I'd be lying if I would say like that didn't matter at all to me. But
that's not what it's about.
No, for me, it's the strength piece of it.
Right.
And if you're focusing, that's the thing too. If you're focusing on getting stronger, everything's going to come. If your focus is, I'm going to lift more, I'm going to run more, I'm going to do this, those physical attributes that you're looking for will come. But when you're focused only on those, then you're not going to see them like you want to see them.
It's a balance act. Mm-hmm. You got to balance everything. And that's why, like, I recommend, like I said before, yoga and doing everything. Yep. Do everything because you'll benefit like all around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's just, your journey is your journey. Your body is your body. It's going to respond differently than everybody else's.
Yeah.
So just keep going on where you're at, whether that's day 1, day 300, whatever it is, that just be consistent with yourself and basically screw all the haters. That's the end of that message. But, and find things to challenge yourself. We talked about our, goals at the last podcast, and I'm officially am running a half marathon in August. And
awesome.
And part of the reason for that I finally said yes to it is not only is it a huge goal, right? Like to say you ran a half marathon, but I hate running. Literally, like despise running with every ounce of my being. I hate it so much. But that's why I'm doing it, because not only am I getting the accomplishment of running the half marathon, I'm getting the accomplishment of every single minute that I wanted to not walk outside and run.
Yeah.
Every single day that I had to go train, that I wanted nothing more than to go back inside my house. So I'm pushing, that's a new challenge for me, to push myself beyond the barrier of not only, I've never ran more than like 5 miles. So I'm not only
5 miles is pretty good.
That's like one time, like in my life. It's usually like 2 to 3, but so I'm 10 more miles than that, like
right.
I've never even been close to a half marathon length. So not only to accomplish that feat, but then the whole piece leading up to it, the training, the running outside when I absolutely just want to go back in. And
it's kind of conquering a fear, not necessarily a fear, but like maybe like you fear running. Like you just don't want to do it, but you're conquering that.
And that's part of the reason why I was like, okay, I need to do this.
Yeah.
Not only just because it's been a bucket list item to say that I accomplished it, because it's cool, but I need to do it because I need to conquer that.
Right.
I need to like silence the piece of my mind that's literally every time it's like, you could never run a half marathon. You're not a runner. Why are you even doing this? There's always that critic. And I know that people that struggle with fitness always have that, whether it's running, lifting, that's like, you're not going to be able to do that. You can't lift that.
Yeah.
There's no way you can do that. And for me to say, basically, like, fuck you, little voice in my head, I'm going to go do this. And once you start conquering the things like that, it applies to every aspect of your life. Once
Absolutely.
you learn that you can do that.
It makes everything so much easier. Mm-hmm. I mean, because you might not want to go to work then, but it makes that easier.
Yeah, everything. Once you learn what you can conquer in your life, you're like, okay, what else could I?
Right.
What else can I conquer? That voice, that doubtful voice, starts to be silenced.
Yeah.
And the empowerment that comes along with that is huge. Like I can't even put it into words. That feeling.
Yeah.
And it's my own. I have a kind of like a life fear of going through life, not realizing what I was capable of. To me, that's much more scary.
Is that a newer fear since you started getting in shape and stuff?
Yeah, it is. And then also with COVID too, and where like the world shut down, we were all afraid, all of that. And then it was like that realization that you literally never know what's going to happen. We never would have said the whole world would have shut down.
Yeah.
Nobody would have said that.
Yeah.
And so you literally never know what's going to happen. And so it is a newer fear where I'm like, I'm just going through my life, like in the motions, like not even realizing what I can do as a person. Like,
right.
What, like to me, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing?
And I think so many people get stuck in that pattern too. Like just the mediocre of life. Like they just go through life. Like I got to go to work, got to come home, take care of kids. It's just the same old every single day instead of chasing a goal or a dream. It's kind of an eye opener, like, especially when somebody dies. Yeah. You think about like I had a coworker who died a couple weeks ago, and he was like one of the first people I ever met when I started at GM. He was like a huge mentor. And I got to thinking, like, you never know when you're going to die. Like no. I could die tomorrow.
I've had 3 people recently pass away young-ish.
Yeah.
And it's like, they weren't planning on that,
right,
right. And it's like some of these people were only 20 years older than I am.
Wow.
And actually all 3. And so I'm like, oh my God, thinking you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it could be even less time than that.
Yeah.
Like you just don't know. And so I'm like, what? I need to be out there living and fully living. And that what that means is not going through the motions.
Right.
Being present in the moment, realizing what you're capable of, conquering things, getting to the top of that mountain, and whatever it is for you individually.
Yeah.
You really have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring. And I think that stuck feeling and that blah feeling just ends up being people's demise. You need to break free from that and discover what do you like? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
What do you enjoy?
Right.
What do you have a goal? Why aren't you chase it?
Yeah.
What's stopping you? And I'm guilty of it. We put it off. We're like,
it's
I'll
so
do that
easy
later.
Too.
And I don't have time for that right now. And I'll someday, but like when someday?
Right.
When is someday? Because we don't, is someday going to come?
Yeah.
Are you just going to keep saying someday?
Yeah.
Or I don't have time. I'll do it when I have time. And, even the daily stuff of working out, I don't have time to work out. Yes, you do. I guarantee you do.
You always have time to do something.
Even today, I almost caught myself before coming here. I almost convinced myself I didn't have time to work out before I came here. And then I was like, this is ridiculous. Yes, I do. Like,
I'm going to tell you, I convinced myself that I didn't have time to work out, but I didn't, in all fairness. I didn't. I woke up at like 8:30. I'm like, podcast is at 11. I need to set up.
Yeah.
My workout takes way longer. Yeah, I don't have time.
Right.
I'll do it after.
Right. But you're like, okay, then I'm going to promise myself I'm going to do it after.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, I do have time. Like I can make this work.
Right.
But I almost convinced myself I didn't. And that's the cycle. But you have to continuously, break free from it. And it's always a work in progress. Like I said, I'm still guilty of. I did it today.
Yeah. It's an easy thing to do. It's a human thing to do.
Mm-hmm, but then I'm like, I know that's a very slippery slope. Like once I start saying that, I'm gonna be right back down. Yeah. And that's not where I want to be.
Right.
So.
Well, thank you for doing this. We're an hour and 25 minutes in.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, let's wrap this bad boy up.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's
absolutely. Thank you.
It was a fun time.
I didn't have audio problems this time, but my camera stopped working. I don't know why.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So, but it got you. So we're
perfect.
Good. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.